Welcome to Travel with Stephanie Abrams. It's time to talk travel with her traveling companion, David Isby. Here is one of the 100 most powerful women in travel, Stephanie Abrams.
You know, I'm really glad that you're going to sit in on this chat because this is going to be dynamite. I know it to begin with. We could spend hours just playing Irish geography and finding the pinpointed intersections of all the places and people in Ireland that I know and love that are very well known to my guest, John O'Shaughnessy, General Manager of the Spa at Norwich Inn in Norwich, Connecticut, a place you have to come to that I will go into in depth, if not today while I'm interviewing my guests, but certainly over the coming weeks, because there's so much to know about this wonderful place. If you're in New York City on business or pleasure, it's a hop and a jump to get into Connecticut. You're right here. Don't miss this opportunity to not only be at one of the Historic Hotels of America group properties, which by that designation already tells you the place is special, but the food is spectacular. It is such a pleasure, John, to meet you, and I am going to be introducing you to Margaret O'Shaughnessy, who is the founder and executive director and head hotshot that brought together the Foynes Flying Boat Museum in Foynes, County Limerick, Ireland. And I knew before I met you that you and your family had to have come from Limerick. So good for me and good for you, and I'm glad you're here. And it's
Thank you. An absolute pleasure to meet you.
You should know I was a leprechaun in my last life. Other than that, I have absolutely no Irish connections. None. So, and worse than that, my husband's father was born in Manchester, but we'll forgive him for
We
that.
won't hold that against him.
No, we'll just overlook it.
All right.
So how long have you been here at this wonderful place, the spa at Norwich Inn in Norwich, Connecticut?
So I came here 18 years ago.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, I had known this property before I came here, but I actually targeted this property as to where I wanted to work.
Why?
There's something very special about this property. When you arrive at this property, it sort of envelops you in a very unusual way. And one of the things that we hear from our guests again and again is the unusual experience that they have when they come to visit us at this property.
Well, it starts out at the road. As you're making the turn to come into the drive, the way the drive area is landscaped, the attention to every detail of every little flower bed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with a place in Killarney, I want to say, on Muckross Road called Cairnan House. Do you know it at all?
No, I don't know.
On your next trip through, my dear. Also, Mount Falcon Lodge, or Estate, or Country House. They change their name every 2 or 3 weeks. In County Mayo. It is the same feeling that you've got this road, and then suddenly there's the signage and the drive entry, and you feel like you're driving into a storybook experience from that moment forward. And the closer you get to the building, the more fairy tale-like it presents itself. And so your hotel, resort, spa, accommodation, setting, lodging,
Right.
is so similar in feel to places that you would otherwise have to cross an ocean to go to.
Yeah.
And look how convenient you are.
It's very, very interesting. We also get that feedback. Guests come here from as far away as a couple of hours from Boston and New York. But we also get guests visiting us from as close as New Haven or Mystic, Connecticut. And
Another great place.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in your backyard, but it's a totally different experience.
But what's interesting too, I mean, we're barely on property coming up on 24 hours.
Right.
And I'm glad we did all the things we did prior to our meeting, John, because it's given me a chance to understand the lay of the land,
Right.
the accommodations, the friendliness of the staff, the service, have dinner, have breakfast, watch food service,
Right.
preparation, presentation.
Right.
You get to get all that fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And so, but what's interesting is while the name of the place, borne out by people padding around in their bathrobes, the spa at Norwich Inn is clearly the emphasis of the name. There must be 150 people here today in that big meeting room, right, all corporately dressed with their presentations and whatnot.
Right.
So this is not just a place, and it all fits together very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of where we live. We live in a place that feels like Club Med.
Right.
You go to a meeting, if the guy came off his tractor, or he came out of his law office, he came out of your kitchen,
right,
and everybody just shows up at the meeting, does what you got to do, and go. And nobody looks at anybody like, why didn't you get dressed properly? Whatever you're wearing is considered proper. And that's the way it is when you go to a Club Med. You want to put on sequins, you put on sequins. You want to wear your shorts, you go in your shorts. Nobody cares. You go to please you. And so there is this coexistence here,
yes,
of an entire world that appeals to travelers and corporate people looking for the right environment to do the business they didn't need to do. And by the way, I was just down the hallway from that meeting that was going on this morning. These were happy people. As I was walking through the hallway, you could hear the presentations going smoothly. There was coffee service being done for the coffee break. Right. Nothing was being interrupted, and the rounds of applause were massive. So those assembled were very pleased with the presentations. And in the meantime, there's folks in the hall headed for the spa.
Right, right. It's a very unusual property in that regard, and the name, as you alluded to, holding the word the spa at the front end. The spa is really the largest part of our business. However, one of the things that attracted me to this property in the first place also was that we engage in so many different things. We host weddings at the property, executive retreats, day meetings. We have day guests that come to the spa. We have resort guests that come for a leisure break, and we tie in all of the spa services and, of course, all of the wonderful food and beverage that we offer throughout the property and the grounds, as you alluded to as well. It just creates overall a wonderful, wonderful experience for our guests, and they really appreciate it.
My mission, John, and if you've just joined us, we're talking with John O'Shaughnessy, who's the general manager of the spa at Norwich Inn. Their website is thespa@norwichinn.com. And maybe one day you'll find a way to shorten that. I'll send you my bill in the morning for consultation. I have a nasty habit of sticking my nose into everybody's
name.
Business.
But we're so well known here.
Well, that's the interesting part of it, because my mission, and if you go to sabrams.com, that's sabrams.com, put mission statement into the search box on the site, you will find that my mission is to introduce my audiences on air, online, when I make public appearances, whatever, to destinations and suppliers in those destinations, hotels, resorts, attractions, car rental companies, cruise lines, whatever, that I believe if they go there, they will come home enriched, enhanced, inspired, and uplifted, and somehow know they are better people because of the experience they just had.
Right.
I have interviewed massive numbers of members of Historic Hotels of America, and I only stumbled across this place, the spa at Norwich Inn, because I got an outreach from a member of your staff connecting me to a very dear, very old friend who feeds me, and I follow him anywhere.
Let me guess who that might be.
Well, we're going to be talking to both of them later, both your director of sales, Gary Baker, and to Lee Maston, chef extraordinaire, who I know from Berkshire County from ages ago. So I'm thrilled to catch up with all of you, and we're going to continue this conversation after these important messages. Pay attention, people. We'll be right back. Don't leave me.